Welcome into this edition of the Cardinals Insider Podcast. I'm John Rooney, and joining us today, Rob Cerfolio. He's Assistant General Manager, Player Development and Performance for the Cardinals, and Randy Flores, 2006 World Champion with the Cardinals of Tony La Russa, Assistant GM and Director of Scouting. And we're going to get into a number of subjects with the Cardinals minor leagues, what took place in the Arizona Fall League. We're going to talk about some of the Cardinal draft choices. But let's kick it off with our minor league players of the year and start with you, Rob. And beginning with J.J. Wetherholt out of West Virginia, who made a nice impact in his performance in spring training last year and carried that over to a great year where he's your minor league player of the year.
He is. We're lucky that Flo and his team brought in a great player. So fist bump right there.
Fingers crossed.
Great season by JJ. I mean, everything from learning a new position on defense, or a position that he's played previously in college but brought back into his repertoire this spring, summer, to just attacking areas of his game that he could improve upon, while all bringing a lot of talent and incredible work habits as part of how he showed up in 2026. We're excited to see a lot of that.
A couple of the early reports on him, Rob, that the defense needed some work in some areas. And from what I've been able to gather lately, he is so pleased with the way that work took off and helped him not only as a terrific hitter, but as a good defender to become your minor league player of the year.
Yeah, it's like I said, it speaks to his work habits. I think everybody sees the stat line with this guy, and that in of itself is impressive. But the part that for me is honestly more impressive is his 1 o'clock to 6 o'clock part of his day, and how he wins that part of his day and really kind of helps set some of the standard of what we want to see organizationally with all of our players, with attention to detail. The reps that he takes are intentional and deliberate, and he deserves a lot of credit for his growth on defense. And obviously Larry Day and Ryan Barba and the whole crew that was really partnering with him on, all right, what can we do to make you a better shortstop, with some of the technique of the fielding phase into how he throws, and then also spending time at second and third and the different demands that each of those positions require. Like, we never know what position the major league manager needs to write these guys into for the first time. So from our vantage point, it's like, how do we give them versatility and options to get into that lineup card easier? And JJ just really attacked that and never had any ego on what he can or can't do, just was always interested in how do I get better. So he deserves a lot of credit.
Well, and that's where I jump in, Rune, and Surf is just the interplay on the scouting and player development. It's paramount. It's vitally important, because no player, I mean, I might go on a limb, maybe one player, two, some. So I'll just say almost no player goes from exactly the type of player they were and the type of profile they were and the type of skills that they were in college or high school, and is that exact same player in the big leagues. They have to adapt. They have to learn. They have to grow. And you guys see it here in the major league stadiums, not just with the Cardinals, but across the industry. Players get called up, and they have to adjust because the league adjusts. And so that's so fun about the group in player development and scouting working together, is to give a player a good starting spot, and then it's incumbent on the staff and the player to maximize their best possible outcome.
And your minor league pitcher of the year is left-handed pitcher Brycen Mautz. And Mautz, second-round pick, 2022 out of the University of San Diego. Fill us in on him. Heard his name a few times during the course of the season for what he was doing, and we're going to hear it a whole lot more being the minor league pitcher of the year for the Redbirds.
Yeah, and I hope years to come after that. I think this builds off Flo's point nicely right there of, this is a guy that had a lot of success in college, and this past year really for us, how do we build on that? What are the things that made him really successful, going all the way back to what made him a second-round pick, and what are our opportunities to like even raise the floor off of that? First off, like, Mautz pours a lot of time and care into his own development. And this is a guy that's spending weeks and months at facilities in the off season to like squeeze every drop out of who he can be as a pitcher. So I think that's like worth a call out here. Like, we are blessed to have someone that's really dedicated to getting better. So again, it's a huge credit to getting the right players makeup-wise in the room by the scouting group.
Well, and that goes all the way back to his former coach, Brock Ungrich, his head coach at USD, was a former scout for the Cardinals.
There you go.
And so you talk about leaning into the relationships that are hard to quantify via TrackMan or ball tracking or analytics. Those are very, very hard. But there's an interplay between the makeup and character and then being able to squeeze, to your point, every bit of ability out of you and combine that with best-in-class curriculum and instruction. And again, to try to provide the best chance at a positive outcome.
Well, Flo, what goes into drafting a player? You look at them, you scout them, you spend many, many hours talking about a player, but I don't think the fans have half an idea of what's involved before you actually get into the room and you get that slot when you make the draft pick.
Well, I've got 2 hours carved out for this answer.
No. I know what I'd say, man, is that honestly it starts out with some humility. I mean, it really does, because the guys in the room and those who are in the game long enough know that no one bats 1,000 in this game. No one. The draft is extremely hard. It still is hard. And so what goes into it has changed dramatically even in the 10 years that I've been spearheading the draft with the just inordinate amount of information that we now have on players, even relative to 5, 6, 4 years ago. You know what goes into it, though? I'll simply say it that it is a huge team effort. There is no more one person chomping a cigar, pounding his fist at the table and said, we take this guy or else. It is an army of people across multiple domains, from performance, mental skills, hitting instruction, pitching development, biomechanists, scouts, makeup, cross-checking, scouting directors, analytics. It's a 365 endeavor to try to get the best pool of players in play at each round of the draft. It's an insane task. It's one I'm proud to be a part of. And to be partnering with Rob the last couple of drafts has just been so special.
How much time is spent on finding out what's inside a player that you're going to draft?
A lot. I'd also say that is also imperfect. Those of you who have kids, you also know your own kids' makeup and character changes in time, right? From the perfect little 5-year-old to the snot-nosed 8th grader to the fiercely independent high schooler to finally an appreciative adult, right? And so there's just, I think, Surf, I've heard you say player development is nonlinear. I also think character and makeup is nonlinear. And what I love about hearing Surf and his staff say is not that person's makeup has a hiccup or two. It's how can we get the most to support the evolution and growth of their makeup to get the most out of them as a player.
Well, let's talk about some other players. Liam Doyle, University of Tennessee, left-handed pitcher, 21 years old. And then Tanner Franklin out of the University of Tennessee, right-handed pitcher. So I know you spent a lot of time in Knoxville.
Oh, yeah.
Checking those guys out, but they are terrific talents. Fill us in a little more on them.
I'll start just on the draft side. The horsepower of Liam Doyle and Franklin is something that just pops out at you. It really does. Obviously, if you spend any time on Twitter or you see Liam Doyle's on-mound presence, it kind of reflects his former head coach Vitello's presence. And that's something that was part of the culture that they brought. And as we were talking about, how to peel that back, what does that really mean? It took getting in front of Liam Doyle and going through the interview process to hear and see that that's who he is between the lines. And I think that we've all seen that it takes something different to go between those lines in a major league stadium with the crowd going, and you have to have something in you that flips off a normal human being and turns into a competitor. And I think I'd rather start with where Liam Doyle started, where maybe he's pushing that a little bit. We'll have to see if that can withstand a 6-month season, than having to coach that type of aggression and confidence into someone.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that, from my vantage point, was really, like, to Flo's point of just the army of people collaborating in the draft room, like something that was really interesting to me, just his story of like 3 different schools. But when you really dig into, the evolution of him as a pitcher from a low 90s to mid upper 90s guy, and you talk to the strength and conditioning staff at Tennessee, and you see the literal progression of him physically and just how he moves on field. Those are things that I think are exciting, because it's a guy that's coming to you that has had to put in the work and been humbled, and come out the other end of that and seen how that work in the weight room and that time spent with a nutritionist, those are just now things that we don't have to start from ground zero on, from a development side of things, and things that we can have in Liam Doyle's back pocket till hopefully he's pitching here in Busch Stadium for a long time. So those are things that I think are exciting when you get guys that are supremely talented but have had to go through some ebbs and flows and come out the other side of that, and now we have an opportunity to capitalize on it, hopefully.
That's a good point, sir, because you often say in the draft is we won't know what this person will do when they handle adversity. And so to your point, he's handled some adversity and saw that when you work, when you are committed, when you're dedicated in the weight room, when you're committed to a throwing program, what the reward was.
Yeah.
And he reaped the rewards of his work.
Quinn Matthews, talk about handling adversity.
Yeah.
We had a discussion about this on the radio network one night during one of the Cardinal games late in the season. And Rob, he had his ups and then he had his downs, from minor league pitcher of the year with the Cardinals to where he's trying to figure it out at AAA. Where does he stand now?
Same place he stood when he won minor league pitcher of the year. I think that's the beautiful thing about this is you don't want guys getting to the big leagues without some scars and some battle wounds. It helps teach them the resiliency, both mentally and I think the resiliency from how do you go about your day as a starting pitcher. In this case, it's people only are, in the Twitter sphere, people only zoom in on what happens between the white lines between 7 and 10 o'clock. But ultimately, it's like, what are you doing every hour around that to build championship level winning habits and routines that allow you to be great at those 3 hours of night for a long time? And I think, and I'm hopeful that we look back 5 years from now and we talk about this year as one of the most impactful growth opportunities for Quinn Matthews that he had in his career. And it allowed him to make that transition, whenever that transition happens, to the big leagues that much easier. Because guess what? And I told Quinn this, we've talked about this as a group, there's going to be times when he's in the big leagues, he's going to struggle again. I hope he doesn't, but the betting man in me thinks that he will run into adversity again. And now he has some real experiences to fall back on of what did you learn from that? How did we compartmentalize having future success because of what we responded to? And so I think there's a lot of real, hopefully long-term positives that we can take from this year. And I think if you really dig into some of the underlying things that Quinn did or didn't do this year, there's a lot to be excited about. And I know I personally am really happy that he's in our organization.
Roberto Hernandez was a closer for the Chicago White Sox, but he had so many innings in the minor leagues, and he was one of the first pitchers to tell me I wouldn't be here without failing at the minor league level, making mistakes where it didn't kill my career, but had a chance to overcome that. And I think that can be said for about any pitcher, right, Flo?
Look, the guys move up to the big leagues so quick now. It's different than, a long time ago when I played. But as someone who contests to that fact that I had 1,100 minor league innings, 1,100 is a lot of minor league innings. And that was to learn the lessons to allow me to barely scratch and claw to keep a spot in the big leagues for parts of a few years. But those lessons were formed in the minor leagues through adversity, through handling different pitching coaches, different managers, learning different pitches, pitching at altitude, pitching in Colorado Springs, pitching in Denver, getting your teeth kicked in. And I like the way you said it, was just that there's very few players who get to the big leagues and stay absent the scars required of pain and growth.
Mm-hmm.
And because players move so fast, sometimes the question is, well, what's wrong with the guy? Nothing. It's baseball.
Yep.
It's baseball. Give it some time. And I love the way you said it, Surf, that, let's look back in 5 years and remember this year positively.
Well, I have so many fans ask me about young pitchers coming up. They may throw the ball through the wall. They may be able to rack up strikeouts. And then if they hit a snag, there's a problem. How many really know how to pitch, or players know how to play? And that's something the Cardinals have worked on in building up instruction at the minor league level by hiring so many different instructors, so many people in the performance area and all those areas. I know that you're very proud of that, Surf, and so is Chaim Bloom.
Yeah, I'm zoomed out from a literal how many Zooms have I been on trying to build this team out. But no, it's I'm stealing this line from a mentor of mine, but it's something that we talk about a lot and I really believe in, and have, when I was farm director, said it every spring training to the minor league staff of look around the room that we're in right now. There's 100 people in here, and together all of us make one average coach, hopefully one great coach, but it really takes an army. And Flo talked about having the best in class curriculum. It starts with having great people and teachers. And, it's been a really fun opportunity the last 2 off seasons, and the one that we're in right now, we are still working on this endeavor of building out our team in service of the organization and our players, so that we can look in the mirror and say we have world-class curriculum and people teaching and scaling that curriculum from really the major leagues and AAA all the way down to rookie ball. And it takes a lot of people, and it takes a lot of smart people to actually pull that off. And it's been really fun to both recruit and bring in some awesome people to help us get there. And, blessed to have good teammates like Flo that I've asked to help interview a lot of these finalists for various positions, because it ultimately is an organizational effort, not a me or a Chaim Bloom or any one person's thing. It's just the organization investing in who's on this team and making the journey with us.
As we sit here in early December, we'll be down in Jupiter before we know it. What will those players experience with this type of instruction, with the type of drills that they'll be going through, leading to the games and leading to the process of being assigned teams? And some of them may have a chance to be with the Cardinals here at the big league level. But what's that going to be like for them?
Yeah, well, first off, thank God, because it's cold and snow and getting ready for Florida. But
I'm trying to think positively, guys, that there is a better day ahead as far as the weather goes. But
your question's a great one.
We're going to blink our eyes, and we're going to be there, and those guys are going to be looking around, and they are going to have so much help right now in getting to where they want to go.
Yeah.
And that is part of the process now, not only for the Cardinals, but for Major League Baseball.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to this answer, and it's a great question, because I think first it actually starts with our ownership group investing in building a world-class facility that's under construction right now. But when that thing is done, part of how we've thought about, yes, people, that's part one, is getting the right people in the room. And then how do we have the best facilities and create the best programs to then leverage the developmental calendar all year round? So when I think of how do we prepare players for spring training, it's, okay, the part of the season, the year where we play games, that is half of the year. What are we then doing in the other half of the year to really push guys to become better athletes from a strength, power, and movement quality perspective? And by having a great facility in Jupiter, we can really leverage the competitive advantage that is the Treasure Coast of Florida, with staff and players that are training all year round. And from my vantage point, we owe it to our players to give them the best facilities and coaches, so that they don't have to go out of, or, kind of away from the Cardinals to get great coaching and development. So I think a huge part of how do we prepare these guys for showing up ready for spring training is, well, what did we do the 6 months prior to that? How did we leverage our facility and complex in Jupiter to be able to help them get better at the things we targeted at the end of the season? And then in January and February in particular, how did we continue that, but also ramp them up to be ready? Because oftentimes, young players, their best opportunity is right out of the chute. And they need to be ready for that. There's things on the workload side, but there's also things from what did we do from a live BP, bullpens, swing load, all these things that go into getting guys ready to compete early. It's really important that we maximize and think about our development calendar as a 365-day thing, not just a what did this guy do performance-wise between April and September the year prior. So there's a lot there. It takes a real army, and that's why we're building our team so much and having a lot of our leaders be based out of Jupiter, so that we can really leverage the competitive advantage that we hope to have.
Well, Randy, when you came up with the Cardinals, world champion in 2006 and that championship team of 2011, those players who came up from the minors expected to fit in, perform, knew how they wanted to fit into the Cardinals, and got it done. Now players are rushed to the big league level so fast that it's hard to find your way. And I think so many times guys are worried, what do I have to do to stay here?
Yeah, that's the thing I think that every player has to come to terms with. You have to. To your last point of what do I have to do to stay here, that doesn't go away. And you hear some of the great players talk about, I don't come to camp assuming I have a job. I prep as if I have to win the job.
Albert Pujols said that all the time.
There we go.
And it was not a joke or a passing statement.
Correct. And so I think that one part of the maturation of a player is, one, believing that you're good enough, And 2, to stop worrying about what happens if you have a bad day, you're not performing. You talk about being even keel or having a short memory, and that's a skill. Some people, it's easier for them to have it. They're just more gifted. There's less ups and downs or less downs in their journey. And others have to learn that, to your point, by some of the scars. There's very, very few players that get to the big leagues and never have to look over their shoulder for the next man. So all players better learn how to deal with that pressure, or it will be a hindrance in them staying up here.
Can't beat competition, though, Rob, and that's what the Cardinals are trying to create again at the minor league level with bringing in the drafted talent, making trades, bringing in some people that, the Sonny Gray deal brings in a couple of pretty good pitchers from the Boston Red Sox that I know you're hoping will fit in for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, again, the theme of collaboration is, we're all in different areas of the country or the globe, working through the pieces of a deal like that. And I think it speaks to Flo's point of it really does take an army to do all of those things to ensure that the org is making the best decision that they can. And in this instance with Clark and Fitz coming, I think we've got 2 exciting pitchers that are both on the younger side that have real ceiling to what they can do. And ultimately it's now on the St. Louis Cardinals to help them become better versions of themselves. And that's the goal anytime you bring in a new player, and we've got 2 good ones in that way here.
The Arizona Fall League, I found that to be an interesting thing to follow right from the end of the season, and they ramp up right around the end of November. But that's the best of the best, isn't it? The young players throughout Major League Baseball that get a chance to compete at a level that wasn't available before the Fall League a few years back.
Yeah, it's the Fall League's an interesting one because it's really evolved, especially post-COVID, to where I think if you were to go to a Fall League game in 2015, 16, you would see 10, 15 top 100 prospects. And they tended to be older players, and now it's really shifted towards a little bit of a younger player. And every org ultimately, I think, attacks the strategy of who goes to the Fall League differently. And each year it's almost a different puzzle to solve. And this year we were able to send some exciting players that either we felt like more gameplay was what they needed developmentally, or they just missed time. And this was an opportunity to get them more opportunities for competition and to build up their workloads to put them in a position to succeed for 2026. So I think, we were able to send a pretty good pool of players out there, and I think each of them got something out of it.
Well, the Arizona Fall League has evolved over the years where I've noticed that a lot of the names I'm not familiar with, but we do become familiar with many of them. And from the Cardinals standpoint, how about Chen Wei Lin?
Yeah.
That's an interesting pitcher. He's a right-hander, and he has a thin build, and he has an interesting delivery, but he had a pretty good Fall League, didn't he?
Yeah, and it comes out at about 102, so that's always nice as well. So, yeah, Chen Wei threw really well. All the guys that went there, we had a couple players that were selected to the Fall Stars game or whatever they call it. But again, it really is just about being deliberate with the opportunity to help these guys get better. And for the guys that went in this case, we felt like more gameplay was advantageous to their long-term growth. And, like I said, I think that's the puzzle pieces you're trying to put together every September to figure out what are the right 6 to 8 names to send.
And one of the new members of the 40-man roster, catcher Leonardo Bernal. Bernal was a Gold Glover at the minor league level. And the Cardinals, that's one area in the minor leagues where out of the, top 10 prospects and some of the rating scales, the Cardinals have at least 3 that are catchers in that regard, and Bernal's right there. Tell us more about him.
Yeah, we're blessed to have some depth at a position that's really difficult to develop and scout. So I think it speaks to just how our international and amateur groups are really just doing a great job by bringing in talent. And, Leo is a switch hitting catcher that can do some impressive things on both sides of the ball. That means that we have an opportunity to continue to help him get even better. But the tools at which we're starting with is pretty special. And just, another great kid that wants to work. He was a part of a really great team in Springfield this year that did some awesome things from a win-loss standpoint, but I think more so the thing that I'm proud of is just winning the day. That team's process was high quality this year, and it was a result that they won a lot of games, and Leo was a huge part of that by what he did on offense and defense. And I think, Ethan Goforth, our catching coordinator, Patrick Anderson, who helped lead a lot of the catching initiatives at our AA level, who is the manager of that team. They did some great work, and there's more ahead of us for sure.
I remember when the Cardinals had John Jay, Daniel Descalzo, and Jason Mott, and some others at Springfield. Mike Paul was a major league scout, pretty good pitcher with the Cleveland Indians and some other teams at the big league level. I think he was also with Texas. But he said, you know what? Cardinals have 5, maybe 6 major league players on that team. How many major league players do you expect to get out of a championship team like that? Is it 1, 2, 3, or just how it evolves?
Man, that'd be tough. I bet there's a study that could actually find that. But I think what you do look for is at that AA level, right? Everyone talks about the difficulty from low A to high A, especially absent the 2 short season teams, to now make the jump to AA. You've seen even some of our own players, like Josh Baez, who really struggled in that jump to AA. Those who can adapt and adjust there, that's a great starting spot to indicate that they might have another jump in them to succeed at the big league level. So the exact numbers, we'd be thrilled with the numbers that you just recalled. But to Surf's point, it's more about the process leading to the result of wins, and the process of them successfully winning as much as they did means that there's a lot of players who withstood the grind of a long season and made the adjustments to win and win at a high level.
I'll pose a question for both of you that I asked Chaim. How important is winning at the minor league level?
This is such a fun topic because my personal 2 cents is I don't think you just waltz into the major leagues and decide that we're going to win now. And I think tracking wins and losses in the minor leagues does not necessarily mean that your major league team is going to win when those guys get there. So it's like, how do those things work together in concert? For me, it's we want to teach winning habits and standards. And that is quite literally different than, well, how many games did we win as an organization in the minor leagues last year? I think if we select from an acquisitions standpoint, the type of makeup and mentality that we want across the organization, and then we help teach just this concept of there are no little things. There are just things that impact winning a Major League Baseball game. And whether that's hitting or base running, they're all things that lead to having more wins than losses during a Major League season. In order to be great consistently, we need to develop players that do all of those things well, and we need to teach it. So for me, I never have at the beginning of the year I hope that we have a 550 winning percentage in the minor leagues. I would much rather us have a 450 winning percentage, but actually see the behaviors and teaching that matters. And I think if we scale excellence from what we teach and the behaviors and standards that we hold our players to, a byproduct of that will be winning games, and we will have players that come up in an environment where that's just who we are, and that will translate to winning games, hopefully at the major league levels. So hopefully that's kind of like a little bit of a yes and answer.
No, what I like what you're saying is about teaching the winning habits. And Rune, you've been doing this a long time. You'll be, well, that's what teams used to do. Well, again, the landscape is different. We see that in the draft now. High school players, they're year-round travel ball. It's showcase ball. It's max effort on the mound. It's launch angle.
Players have hitting coaches and pitching coaches outside of what the organization provides.
Right. And so you have someone who's just been trying to launch balls their entire amateur career. Then they get to college and they have a short fence, and the coach tells them to do that. And then their second baseman only plays in the hole because he doesn't have to learn the range because they have a strikeout. But there's all these little things that are fundamentals. Then you go in the minor leagues, and instead of playing thousands of innings, you rush through. It's no wonder that players get here, and it's like, well, they don't know the basics of the game. And so when I hear Surf and his team talk about teaching the standards and habits, someone who's been around the game a long time might be, well, that's what we've always done. True, but it was also done on your year-round high school team, your year-round pony team, year-round little league team, and then you got in the minor leagues and you played season after season and learned over time. Now, absent that early age instruction and absent the cadence of and volume that you get in the minor leagues, it's really incumbent on our development staff to teach the habits that were once taught or the assumption that they were taught when they were amateurs.
When I asked Simon a
Great
question,
context right there.
he said, winning, not that important. But if you develop, you'll win. And he did with his work where he came up the ladder with Tampa Bay, what he was able to do in Boston. And he broke it down where it seemed very simple to me that if you do learn those things, well, it's called the Cardinal way, going back to Mr. Kissel.
Yeah. Agreed.
And you saw a lot of that when you were coming up through the minor leagues, and you got to be around when Mr. Kissel was still in minor leagues.
Special. Yes, exactly right.
That's something else. Now, new staffing. I know that's something you're very proud of. You want to touch on any of the new staff and talk about how that's going to play once we get down to Jupiter?
Oh, well, we would have a lot of names to touch on.
Plenty of time. We have plenty of time, Rob. It's the holiday season.
Yeah. Well, I am excited because this is like truly a group effort, and that's the part about hiring that is most fun for me is just how many people you involve if you do it right. And there's just really nothing more powerful than a group of 20 people picking their own teammates. And that's what, it's a lot of work, and why I made the joke earlier of I'm quite literally zoomed out. I'd hope it'd be awesome if I wasn't on another Zoom interview for the remainder of the off season, even though that's
why we're in person here today. I suggested a Zoom, and
exactly.
Ben Boyd said there's no way that's happening.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it is, in all honesty, it is exciting. We hired a lot of people last year. Really proud of not just the new people, the people that have been here for a long time were critical to all of us newbies, like Flo's impact on me. All the people here as major league staff, the minor league staff that have just been like, how do we get better? And I think we had an opportunity, and ownership and Heim have been awesome with, here are things that we think we need and why, and given us the opportunity to go out and try and fill those voids. And, I know, from my seat, I will be, always feel like in a debt to everyone that has signed up to join us on this mission. Like, we know that this isn't a light switch thing that we're going to flip and tomorrow we're going to have every problem on planet Earth figured out and we're going to make a ton of mistakes, but ultimately you need great people to join you to accomplish the mission that we want, which is getting the St. Louis Cardinals back to where this organization has been and needs to be, and that's winning a lot of games at the major league level, and you need a great team to do that. So I'm really just thankful and proud of the group that has signed up to do that mission with us, and it's been another productive offseason for us by filling some critical roles like a director of hitting that we didn't have last year, which is going to bring not just what we hope to scale from a minor league development standpoint, but also be a resource from the major leagues down and help impact the draft and acquisitions and other spaces of the organization that we were able to do with the pitching side last year with Matt Pierpont. So, Dalton Hurd's a name that's joining us from the Orioles organization. He has experience as a player professionally, was a really productive college player. He knows kind of the player viewpoint, but also brings like some real expertise on the things way behind the scenes that we hope to move the needle on. And we've just been able to fill really important positions like that across the entire organization, and probably should read off everybody's name while we're here.
One, though. Yeah,
but I don't want to single any one person out to be more important than any of the other hires, because it really is.
I think my point, Trevor, is that the DeWitt family treats the Cardinals like family.
Yeah, correct.
And they have really been wonderful at that. And in some of my early discussions when I joined the Cardinals in 2006 with Mr. DeWitt, was about the minor leagues and how much he really feels that's the way the Cardinals will win. They will develop. They will add the pieces they need to add beyond that, but development is first and foremost. And it looks like you've developed a pretty good family, and one of those guys coming back is Ryan Ludwig. We all know what kind of person and the type of competitor Luddy has been over the years, and if you have people that you brought in that have that kind of drive and character like Ryan Ludwig, we're in pretty good shape then going forward.
Well said. We're lucky to have someone like Luds on our team, and little off-season hip surgery is some insider info on Luddy. He's going to be ready to go and rearing for spring training.
Oh, I know. He's ready to go for the caravan. Nice. We've done that. Sure, but talk about your team, though, that when you get together, you start the draft process, and I know you're very proud of that. As you talk, it is a team effort, and some of the folks who are instrumental in helping you, Flo.
Well, in the cross-department nature of it is the team point that I kind of want to focus on, since Surf and I are joining this together. Meaning it's not just a scouting department or just an amateur scouting department, and at the expense of the analytics department or the performance department or the mental skills department or player development, hitting and pitching curriculum. And so it's kind of merging those expertises into a room. And that's where I think Surf's point about the effort that goes into hiring is utmost important, because when you do a good job at that, you have trust. And why do I go to trust? I go to what I started out by saying. One of the key things that I think of running a draft process starts with humility. It's because we're going to make mistakes. We're not perfect on this. And so if you have a team that understands that, and have a team that all wants to put their best effort forward, their most convicted vote, there's no chance any of that's going to be unanimous. Even in our first pick, at pick 5, no chance it's unanimous. So it's having that entire team feel as if they're a part of the process, they gave their vote, and to use Heim's tags that he's always talked to us about since joining. Trust, alignment, and growth. Trust to be honest and to give your honest opinion. Alignment after you make a decision, and then growth to learn for whatever was positive or negative out of that, to then improve for the next decision. And so going through that this last year for the first time with Surf and Pierpont and Carl Koshin on the performance side, it was amazing, but we also have to grow from that, because we got to be better at it the next year and the next year and the next year, and that's what we can't wait to do.
What was the biggest concern when you took over the position, Randy, and you started drafting with the Cardinals, and how it has evolved to the team effort you have right now and what you're looking to carry forward?
So what was the biggest concern with
what was the biggest concern when you took the job? And
the biggest concern is I never scouted in my life, so that was a big one. What's a scout?
That's what I expected. Yeah. That's what I expected, and I remember you telling me that.
Oh yeah.
But
you know what it was?
That didn't take long though to get over that for you.
Well, because we had a great team. We have a great team and great support and a great process by which we iterated on. But you know what the wake-up call was? It was, coming from the uniform and coming from a player. I'm not saying this was the right way to do it, but as a player, you block out a lot of distractions. You block it out so that you could be singularly focused on the game each day of 162. You're blocking out family. You're blocking out friendships. You're blocking out fans. You're blocking out the city in a lot of ways, because there's such a draw on you. And so you live in the city, but you have to block it out and put up a wall. You come in the stadiums, you kind of block out the security, and you block out the people who are filling the seats, and you block out the ushers, all because you're just trying, or at least I was trying, to keep a job and to stay focused, to do it in front of 40,000 people. As a scouting director, you're acutely aware of all the people involved in this team, who give their life to it, from the clubhouse to the training staff to scouts in the middle of nowhere, driving in the middle of the night, to coaches who are away from family, and you're acutely aware of it all. And you're also aware of this city, because now you live here and your kids go to school here, and you realize how much this team means to this city and how much the results of this team make this city proud. And so the worry is that you will not be up to the standard. And our drive together as a team is to be worthy of the standard set before us, to keep this team at the forefront of the industry and to make this city proud of us.
Winter meetings coming up. What do you see happening at the winter meetings from the Cardinals' standpoint?
Hiring conversations, Rule 5 draft. First off, that was an awesome. Somebody needs to put that last answer on like a T-shirt. That kind of gets me fired up right there. But yeah, winter meetings, that's kind of what it's become, I think. Flo, would you say anything else? The best part about it is almost just literally getting your team in the same physical location, seeing peers with other organizations, and there's a lot of hiring. There's like certain things like the Rule 5 draft and other things that go on that create collisions, but that's kind of what it's become.
It's become that, but you've also seen our calendar year has revolved around some action at the winter meetings. And so we're planning for action, and you can't really force that to happen until you talk with agents and you meet with teams. And I think that the event spurs action in a way where people then want to carry discussions either through the winter meetings or up until the holidays. And then there's another well, we got to get this done before the holidays or spring training is about to start. And so
we still see things happening in spring training.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I think that that's kind of what everyone's working hard this week. But as an industry, everyone's out there. And so what Surf's talking about is you're meeting with vendors that are trying to make the next tools for development. You're meeting with your counterparts as you're talking about the scouting calendar and what the draft layout's going to be, whether it's 2 days or 3 days, and how many rounds or how many minutes between rounds. And the lottery is also going to be then the draft lottery, and cross our fingers the ball bounces our way. And so it's an exciting time here just around the corner.
So you're not sitting in the bar exchanging cocktail napkins with trades on them?
Not anymore.
I might be in the bar with a cocktail at some point, just probably not speaking on behalf of a trade.
Hey, thanks so much for the time, and I'm ready to go for Jupiter and to see what happens with the development of the complex down there and that's taking place at Jupiter, and how that will be used by future Cardinal players, and to see some of the players that we've talked about today and many, many more, because that is one thing I like about the Cardinals. They get their good young players a chance by playing in those big league games in spring training.
Yeah,
we see them usually early after the third or fourth inning, and we see them certainly sixth, seventh, eighth inning as we get later in the spring. So that's kind of fun. But have a great holiday, guys. Randy Flores, Rob Cerfolio, I'm John Rooney, and you've been listening to the Cardinals Insider Podcast.